Hello, and welcome to Shop Talk. On today's episode, we'll be looking at loggers and milling. Specifically, we'll be looking at how lumber is processed and the advancements of technology that has allowed for safer practices. When you see this cartoon, what do you think of? You might be thinking, this is what a lumberjack looks like. However, this is what a true lumberjack looked like in the 19th and 20th century. This term was first used in 1831 to describe people who worked in the timber industry. This type of work was no joke. Accidents or injuries occurred often due to dangerous work conditions and the size of the trees being cut. Most logging occurred in the forests of the United States and Canada at the time and took place during the fall and winter months for easier transport. Eventually, with the advancements in tools and technology like steam engines, the timbers being cut could be transported by river or even by train. When it came to the tools loggers used, one of the main tools included a misery whip, or also known as a cross-cutting saw. It got its name because of the difficulty in keeping it sharpened, also known as being a misery. The two-person saw is the most common seen today as a decorative piece in many homes. They also come in one-person versions and are still used today for lumberjack competitions all over the world. In addition to the saws, there were also axes used that came in two versions, a single head and a double head axe. The biggest difference between the two heads was one of the blades would be duller than the other, and it's primarily was being used for removing limbs from the trees. As demand for lumber continued, so did the improvements in technology. By the late 1800s, the steam donkey was introduced, which was essentially a winch system to pull the timber out of the forest into the loading area for transport. In the early 1900s, companies around the world began looking for ways to improve the machines used for forestry by making them lighter and increase productivity. At this time, the chainsaw was invented. Now, it didn't look like today's chainsaw. Many of them required more than one person to operate due to the weight and power needed to move the saw through the tree. Today's chainsaws weigh on average 10 to 15 pounds, depending on their use, whereas the original chainsaw was just over 130 pounds. Today's logging technology has certainly been improved. Machines have been developed for one-person operation from cutting to loading the tree for transportation. Additionally, safety features on tools have been improved or included for the first time. And the personal protective equipment like safety glasses, hard hats, and other clothing required by loggers has certainly changed the industry for the better. From logs to lumber. As trees were cut down and transported, they reached their next destination, the sawmill. Now today, sawmills come in all shapes and sizes, big corporations and small one or two person operations. However, the concept of a sawmill dates back to the 3rd century, where blocks or rock were being cut instead of wood. Prior to the concept of a sawmill, individuals would split and surface boards by hand, which, as you could imagine, would take a really long time to see the end result. It wasn't until the 1700s that the technology developed into a more relatable sawmill that we are familiar with today. Today's sawmill industry has two different types of sawmills. This includes mills that use a circular blade and mills that use a bandsaw blade. Think of a blade similar to a rubber band. The biggest difference between the two mills is really the waste created. The more waste created from a log, the less product that would be able to be sold. Initially, these mills would be powered by water wheels, which could be inefficient due to climate changes. The next power source was steam. This was a popular choice because of the scraps created from the mill could be turned into a heating source for the boilers that would create the steam needed to power the operation. In current day sawmills, however, use electricity, and boy is it a lot of power needed. In addition to running the actual blade that cuts the logs, there are conveyor belts that move the logs and cut lumber, kilns to dry the wood of any moisture, and computers to monitor the day-to-day operations to ensure an efficient production run is completed. All of this technology that is used today ensures that the lumber you are using in class is of the highest possible quality. Without the development and advancements in technology used in the logging and milling industry, you wouldn't be able to produce those one-of-a-kind projects that take your craftsmanship to the next level. So the next time you pull a board off the rack in class, think about all the energy exerted to produce that that you are about to manipulate into the project of your choice. And don't forget, measure twice and cut once.